Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live, Pickaway County Special Edition. I'm your host, Mike Smith. We have a longtime buddy of ours, Chuck Reisinger, with us. Chuck is with Pickaway Works, and we're going to talk about what is Pickaway Works. Coming up in just a moment, our interview is presented today by Rathkamp Financial. Back with Chuck Reisinger right after this.
At Rathkamp Financial, we provide wealth management services that may ease clients' fears of financial loss and help them retire comfortably. Our greatest satisfaction comes from working with clients for many years and helping them realize their dreams.
Chuck Reisinger is back with us from Pickaway Works, but before we get into that, Chuck, a lot of people know you from your days here in the Chillicothe-Ross County area, and just get us caught up on where you went from there to Pickaway Works.
Well, very, very quickly. We go back to the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and in their walk through their lives, they had different places. It might be a well or an altar, and something happened specifically in those places. Well, right down the road from here, wherever plant, back in the day, 1986, that's what brought me to Ross County. Thinking I would be here for a half a year and I'd be gone, and here I'm still here. But yet from there, was blessed to work for a great company called Kitchen Collection. I was there for a long time. And then my father-in-law had this crazy idea about starting a bookstore. And another place, another well, I would say, in my life is right up there on Bridge Street, where the Praises Bookstore was located years ago. From then, I went into manufacturing. I happened to be in Pickaway County. I'm still there, great company. But one of the things that was a challenge for us, and I'm sure anyone listening that deals with business, is employment. The issues are we have all these jobs available, but there aren't people to fill those jobs. One day I was at lunch with a guy by the name of Ryan Scribner, and Ryan was then the head of Pickaway County, P3, which is the organization to woo companies into Pickaway County. And I said, Ryan, you're bringing all these companies in, but who's going to work for them? Yeah. And are you going to take employees from our companies, existing companies, and move them into them? He says, Chuck, have you ever heard of Pickaway Works? I said, well, no. He said, I think you ought to talk to him. So he introduced me to Christy Mills, who has been the founding director of Pickaway Works 17 years ago, and started into that, became a board member, fell in love with the mission, with the purpose. And starting August, I am co-director because Christy is leaving us at the end of the school year next year.
Yeah. So Pickaway Works, and I'm familiar with, I've done interviews back on the radio days with Christy about, what they were doing at that time. For those who were tuned in and hearing Pickaway Works for the first time, are you going into the schools to talk to students?
Absolutely. And let me start real quick, because formally I want to just share what our mission is. To collaborate with education, business, and community to build partnerships that create relevant career pathways for students and link them to the resources and opportunities to succeed. So really, it's a stool, and there's three legs to it. We are school funded. We are funded for Pickaway County schools. We're very involved with the community as well, but also we're partnering with businesses. And businesses right now currently is not only just Pickaway County. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago with Kenworth, working with a program with them. We're dealing, obviously, Accurate Heating and Cooling is very, very involved with us as well. So that's a couple examples of Ross County companies we're working with. And then we also, obviously, at Rickenbacker, all the distribution there, we're very involved with that as well. We spend, though, the vast majority of our time with kids in the schools, in the Pickaway County schools.
Dan Ramey and I just went into a local school yesterday talking to a group that the mission is to show kids the value of that education so that they can go into the workplace. And, there was a time that probably you would have thought Isn't that just instilled in us? But something's happened over the years that some of that's gone away.
Yeah, it really has, and I think it's when I went to Jackson, and great education, but the unwritten rule was you need to go to college, automatic,
Right.
and that world is a bit changing now, because even though college is still a very, very effective way, we like to think of ourselves as career readiness. And that career could include going directly to a company and then getting education, a lot of times paid for by that company, or to go to college to get further education and then to go into workforce. We don't try to convince a child to go into one direction or another. Our goal is exposure. We want to expose that child as much as we can to as many different opportunities, because they might have an interest that they really have no idea that they have that interest. No one's showed that to them. No one's given them that experience.
Mm-hmm. Do you work at all through some of the vocational centers or schools?
Absolutely. One of our major customers is Pickaway Ross Career Technical Center. Jonathan Davis, in fact, met with Jonathan earlier this week. Absolutely. Now, a lot of times what we do with that group is we're working with the 7th and 8th grade in the schools, and what's part of that exposure? Expose them of what Pickaway Ross does to see that it might fulfill their educational needs to reach that interest that they have.
Right. You know, a lot of times, and you hit it right on the head about there was so much emphasis. It almost made you feel as a student as if you didn't go to college, you were a failure. Well, that's not the case. If that's the case, then Dan Ramey and I, we flunked out a long time ago because we didn't go to college. I think we've done all right in life, or at least we're enjoying what we're doing. Nobody's told us that you're a failure yet. But there are some really good salaries for kids coming out of high school in some of these jobs you're talking about.
Absolutely. In fact, we had Jay Timmons, who is a head of the National Association for Manufacturers, had him in this past week as part of the Pumpkin Show. He came to Logan Elm. He is a Logan Elm grad.
Yeah.
But Jay shared quite a bit of data, and the number right now for manufacturing is $70,000 average as a wage in manufacturing. And when we say a word like manufacturing, I think a lot of times people have the idea that, it's a dark environment, it's just a bunch of repetitive work. Obviously, they haven't been on the inside of Kenworth lately. They haven't seen that it has really evolved. And there's a lot of technical knowledge that needs to happen there. But the beauty right now is a lot of companies, if they get a hold of a student that is dedicated, that shows up to work, that has the eagerness that they want to learn, these companies bring them in and they will groom them, including paying for education. Case in point, PPG, we work with two folks there that started on the floor. Both of them are going for their master's degree, paid for by the company.
With a lot of what we've been talking about thus far, it's dealt with mostly kids coming up through, junior high and high school. For people that have gone out into the world and maybe they've stumbled, we believe in grace and second chances in life. Is there anything out there for them to get that second chance?
There sure is. The Pickaway Works, our focus is going to be that high school, but there is in every county, Ohio Means Jobs and Family Services, there are such resources out there to help them to find out what they want to do, to get them further education if they want to, including adult education at the local career tech center, but also education in other places as well. Those jobs are out there. They just need to go and they just need to talk with an advisor.
In fact, there's a number of plants here locally. They call them or they refer to them as second chance jobs or second chance opportunities. And I think that is so neat that companies are willing to do that.
Absolutely. And that's a beauty. Economically, it's been tough on companies because the labor market it's tough, and there's a high demand for labor. But the beauty of that is companies have been forced to possibly look at some folks and some categories that they would never have looked at before. And that's a good thing.
So Pickaway works for the average Susie Q or Joe Brown that's watching this right now. What is a takeaway that you want them to know about Pickaway Works if they had never heard of it before?
The big takeaway is we expose high school kids, middle school, clear up to high school, to careers. That's our goal. We start that clear down into the middle school with we do a partnership with OSU Extension, a program called Real Money, Real World, that really talks to them, begins the conversation of, hey, where are you going to live possibly after you graduate? That costs money. Rent costs money. What are you going to drive? To start them getting thinking of, money, budgets, possibly start, okay, where I'm going to earn money, but get that conversation started in those middle school years, and then start grooming them. We like then in the 10th grade and 11th grade we use a program called Pathful Explore that, number one, the kids take interest surveys, and they're pretty detailed, and it will categorize their interests into different career clusters. There's 17 of them. It could be manufacturing, it could be healthcare, it could be human resources, etc. But just to show them, hey, by the way, the data showed that this is your interests. Now, based on those interests, let's show you some different careers. And they've got all sorts of videos that work through that. And very excited that, our high schools have embraced that. One big point I want to make is that all of our schools, the superintendents on down, are very involved. A lot of people have said, well, that the schools are just so out of touch with business. Not so, not so at all. They have us in to help them to instill that into their classes, but then they also are putting full-time teachers into positions called career readiness. So they're embracing that, and they're trying to get their kids ready for that life after high school.
Chuck, if someone wants to get more information about Pickaway Works, do you have a website?
Absolutely. If you just go in and type Pickaway Works, that's the best way to find us. We're also available on social media as well.
Good to see you again, buddy.
Great to see you.
And we'll have you back.
Okay.
All right. Again, Chuck Reisinger with Pickaway Works, our Pickaway County Special Edition interview today here on Litter Media Live, brought to you by Rathkamp Financial. I'm Mike Smith.